Are you thinking about trying to make cheese in your own kitchen and have no idea where to start? What supplies do you need? What's rennet? What's culture? Do I need a press? How do I age it? Let's take a look at those things today. It's really not as difficult as you think, and depending on how simple or how complicated you want to go, also depends on how much you need to buy. So let's dive in. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Cece. My husband Kirk and I homestead in the big, beautiful state of Montana. And we have a milk cow. We're soon gonna have 2 in milk. But for now, the one, Rue, is giving us lots and lots of milk. And so I am starting to make cheese at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, because we have lots of milk. And that led us to a conversation that I had with a friend who's like, what do you need to have in your kitchen to get started? So I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna show you. So this is a Monterey Jack that I made earlier this week. It did not press super well. The curds I think were a little too big, but that's okay. I will probably vacuum seal this later this evening and stick it in my cheese refrigerator, which I will also show you. So first up, you need to decide, do you want to just do fresh cheeses or do you want to do an aged cheese? Fresh cheeses are more like your feta, your mozzarella, even like a queso fresco. Those you don't need a press, you don't even need a vacuum sealer, you just need basically a recipe book of some kind. You're gonna need a rennet, and you're gonna need some kind of culture. Now, depending on what for cheese you're making will depend on what for culture you need. Your cookbook will tell you exactly what for culture you need. Now, there is a new thing going around where they are using clabber as culture. I have not dug into that. I think it'd be something fun to experiment with. Clabber is basically kind of a cross between fermented or rotten raw milk. It gets to be thick, almost kind of like a sour cream kind of a thing. And people have used it very, very successfully as a culture. I have not dug that deep, but if you want to start experimenting with that, you certainly can. Another thing you're gonna need is a good thermometer. If you get your cheese too hot, you're gonna kill your culture. If the milk is not warm enough, your rennet may or may not set up. Rennet is what sets your milk up to turn into curds, and then you cut your milk because it becomes a thick glob of stuff. There are basically 2 types of rennet. There is an animal or a plant-based. Most rennet is what they call a calf rennet. You can get kid rennet, or you can get a plant-based one. Plant-based ones have a lot of mixed reviews. Some people have really good success with them, some people do not. In general, your calf rennet is probably your strongest, most consistent rennet. I get my cheese making supplies from a company called New England Cheese Making Company. I started off with them with just little kits. In fact, I think I still have one around that I may show you guys what a little kit looks like. It will come with everything you need in that little kit to get started with, like some mozzarella or feta or something like that. Comes with a recipe book, comes with a little bit of rennet, comes with a little bit of culture, comes with a thermometer, and then it will also come with either like a little basket or a mold to be able to put your cheese in if that's what's required for that kind of cheese. The other thing that I like about the New England is they often come in basically like this is a single serving in a little packet. Raw milk, sometimes you don't need a full serving of it. And so eventually I changed over to the large ones and had ordered measurements that can do like a 1/8, a 3/16, you know, that kind of a measurement. Again, your book will tell you exactly what kind of culture you need and how much you need. So if you're going to just do fresh cheeses, chances are pretty much everything you see here, your culture, your rennet, your thermometer, some may need some kind of citric acid and some will need a salt. Salt you can pretty much use just regular table salt, canning salt kind of a thing. The like the Himalayan pink salt or the real Redmond salt, doesn't absorb quite as well, and it has a little bit of a pink color, so your cheese kind of looks a little pink. Personally, I just use the canning salt. That's really, really refined. So if you're gonna do a fresh cheese, that's pretty much all you need. Plus a kettle. You need to have it on your stove and heat it up. But if you're looking at doing pressed aged cheese, you're gonna need a few more supplies. So I'm going to spin this around and show you my cheese making table where I have my press, my mold, and some of my weights. Okay, I just have this table kind of set up all the time because I was tired of trying to find a home for my press and all my things. So this is my cheese making pot. I have a very big strainer in here for whenever I make, 2 to 4 gallons of milk at a time. This will hold 4 gallons. Normally this is more than enough. There is a recipe that I'd like to try in the future that holds 6 gallons, but I do not have 6 gallon. In general, your gallon to pound is the same. So if you use 1 gallon of milk, you're gonna get 1 pound of cheese. If you do 2 gallons of milk, you're gonna get 2 pounds of cheese, etc. The next up is my cheese mold. This is a 4-pound mold. It has a stopper. It has room so whenever you press, you can't see it very well, but there are holes on the side. So you put your cheesecloth in here with your curds, you put the stopper on it, you stick it in here, and you push it down. So it would be, this is what they call a Dutch style cheese press. See if you can see it a little better like this. It has 2 notches. Right here is one, right here's another one. It's a little hard to see, but there is notches. And it will come with a chart to convert how many pounds that you put on will convert into pounds of pressure. And your recipe will tell you exactly how many pounds of pressure you need. I keep a lot of my weights just under the table. And then finally a drain. It drains out when it's pressing. You'll have a lot of whey. Some people put this over a sink or on their countertop, and so then it goes into their sink. I use my sink too much. A lot of times cheese is pressed overnight, or depending on what for cheese it is. I have one cheese that I like to make. It's called a Cheshire, and it will press for about 3 days. So to have this over my sink for 3 days is just not an option. The last thing I do want to say is you're going to want to use stainless steel. You're going to want to use stainless steel kettle. You're going to want to use a stainless steel spoon. A lot of people just use their hands because then you can actually feel the texture of the curds. You kind of have a much better idea if they're cooking. When you're first starting off, you don't really know what you're feeling for, but the more you do it, the more you soon realize, oh, these curds are not cooked enough, or oh, these curds are starting to get really firm. These are cooked enough. You can kind of feel if your curds are starting to get matted together. You can tell whether you have like a little tiny curd or a big curd, so you need to just kind of break the bigger curd. Your hands work really, really well. But in gardening season, you have dirt under your nails. That's not a good time to be putting your hands in the cheese pot. You're gonna wanna use a stainless steel spoon. Some people go the extra mile and, pour boiling hot water in all of this and sanitize everything first. I don't. I just rinse it out with really hot water and call it good. If you're struggling with your cheese, that may be something that you want to look into, sanitizing all your equipment before you get started. So once it comes out of the press, a lot of cheese has to sit for a day or 2 to kind of dry, and then you can vacuum seal it or you can wax it. So I'm gonna go take you over to my little cheese cooler. Okay, this is my cheese cooler. I have some cheese in here. This is a cheddar. I always label my cheeses because if you're making more than one, you will forget. This is when I made it. This is when it is ready to eat at the minimum. So I had made this clear back in April. So this is almost a year old already, which means I'm sure it's very, very good. It's a cheddar. And it would be ready anytime after July, preferably somewhere between July and October. Well, kind of forgot I had it in here. I believe I have a Gouda in here still and a Cheshire. My Cheshire is a 4-pound, so this is what a 4-pound wheel of cheese looks like. Sometimes I put frozen water bottles in here just to help keep it colder. Certain cheeses should be kept a little colder. The coldest this gets is 53 degrees. I don't have a problem with that. Some you may need it a little bit colder if it's just not turning out right, but 53 degrees seems to work out pretty well. This is kind of what a cheese kit looks like. Again, it's from that New England cheesemaking company, and it comes with everything you need in the box. This is like a little basket. I don't make cheese that use baskets, but there is one. This is a little bit of citric acid. This is a little bit of coloring for whenever I make a Cheshire. So again, it kind of depends on what kind of cheeses you make, how much you need to get. The orange, it just changes it. It doesn't change the flavor of it. It's just people have gotten used to seeing cheddar is orange, but it doesn't have to be. So the orange coloring is completely optional. The other thing is I have not done like blue cheeses. I have not done Swiss because those take other bacterias that I have not purchased yet. They still scare me. They still scare me a little. So maybe eventually one day I'll get there. Kind of behind me here, you can see that is a Gouda. The Gouda came out of the press last week. It needs to dry. It needs to dry for about 3 weeks before I vacuum seal it. And then my Gouda will age a minimum of 6 months. I like to age Gouda more like 9 to 12 months. Eventually I may play around with waxing a Gouda or potentially a Parmesan because they need to be aged for so long, and sometimes my vacuum seal bags do not stay vacuum sealed. I think I have an older vacuum seal. So waxing. You can buy bricks of wax and wax them instead of vacuum seal them. This is something that I want to do in the future. I've not got brave enough to try it. Some people will paint it on, like brush it on, and some people will melt it in a pot and then dip one end in and kind of let it cool and turn around and dip the other end in. But your pot will never be the same, so you probably want like an old pot that you don't care about. And so maybe one day I'll get brave enough, but for now we just vacuum seal them. It works out. Yeah, see all my green beans that I need to split open and plant some seeds? That's pretty much what you need. My only other piece of advice is prepared for it to be a trial and error. The first several cheeses that I made, I tried to do like a cheddar and they turned out extremely bitter. And it kind of scared me. But I kept going. And that's when I learned with raw milk, you may not need as much culture and you may not need as much rennet. I also let them age more than the minimum. I let them go more like maximum or double, and that definitely improved the flavor. And I just kept going. And now I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the way my cheeses turn out. So brave enough to start selling it at farmer's market. That's where I'm gonna make a bunch of cheese. I think I'm gonna sell it at farmer's market this summer. So anyways, if you made it this far, comment below what your favorite cheese is, and I may either make it on camera sometime, or I may be saying, you know what, that's a fantastic cheese, but I am too scared to try that yet. So let me know what your favorite cheese is, and I hope this just gives you the encouragement to go ahead, start your own if that's something that you want to do. I'm not an expert by any means, but I might be able to troubleshoot with you, and if I don't know the answer, I can probably point you in the direction of somebody who does know the answer. So until next time, you guys, have a great one.